This is the new microphone for here. The new microphone. And we also have a new microphone for passing around. You're going to love it. You already heard it, some of you. So, for when the time comes. We have 1 minute before we'll start. Shabbat Shalom for those of you who are here in the sanctuary with us at Abbot Emmanuel here in Mount Laurel, and those of you who are joining us through the blessing of technology. We are, for those of you who have not yet done so, going to put on our talit. So if you are on page 288 in the brackets, 289 in the brackets, please join me in the blessing for putting on the talit. Bless Adonai, O my soul, Adonai, my God, how great you are. You are robed in glory and majesty, wrapping yourself in light as in a garment, spreading forth the heavens like a curtain. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehit atef batzitzi. And we turn to page 290. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Va'ani berov chastecha avo veitecha eshtachave el hecho kodshecha be'yiratecha. We continue at the bottom of page 291. For those of you who are not familiar with one of our minhagim, our customs, sometimes we pass around a microphone to allow those who are in the congregation to participate, to lead us in readings. If you like, you can lead the reading. If not, you can pass the microphone to the next person.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware we would lack the strength to sustain life before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength.
Baruch atah Adonai, rofei kol basar umafli la'asot. The person who has the microphone next on page 292. 92.
The soul that you have given me, O God, is pure. You created and formed it, breathed it into me, and within me you sustain it. So long as I have breath, therefore, I will give thanks to you, my God and the God of all ages, source of all being, loving guide of every human spirit.
Baruch atah Adonai, asher biado nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol besar ish. The next section of our service is called Nisim B'chol Yom. And we often share things with one another for which we are grateful. The little things that we don't take for granted. So I would invite anyone to share something good that happened to you this past week. Yes.
After 5 years, my daughter and I finally got together to talk things out. And it worked out beautifully.
Nice.
Yes.
Reconnecting with loved ones. Other things for which we are grateful. Yes?
I'm really grateful to be able to have been a part of the service last night. That was a really fun experience.
Thank you. So you mentioned the service last night. That was my gratitude as well. Really having a very fulfilling experience at Pride Shabbat last night, and a beautiful message and a beautiful congregation, and that was my gratitude. Anyone else have anything to share? So we are also sharing the gratitude of new life, and so I'm going to invite Caleb and his mom and dad and sister to come to the bima if you want. Jocelyn, you can come if you like, and you can stay in your seat if you like, as we welcome him into this world and into the covenant of Judaism. And what is really serendipitous is that this baby's name is Caleb. And our Torah portion this week is about Joshua and Caleb. And Caleb is really the hero of the Torah portion, one of them. So come on up to the bima. This is up on the bima worthy activity. Our God, creator of all living things, we offer you thanks for the countless blessings you have given us. We thank you especially for new life, which sheds radiance into one of our homes, for the privilege of parenthood and of sharing with you, God, in creation. Grateful for your gift of life, Heather and Brian have come into your sanctuary, also with Jocelyn, to give thanks to you, to pray for guidance as they raise their son. Grant to these parents wisdom, patience, and devotion that they may raise their son to live in accordance with your Torah. Extend your shelter over him and give to him love, health, and understanding. And so in this sanctuary and in the presence of your loved ones, we give to you Caleb Bennett Bo Lasavita, son of Brian and Heather, this Hebrew name, Lev Benish Ben Binyamin V'chana Rivka. May it be a name honored in all of Israel. Caleb, the Hebrew names that you have been given are in memory of your beloved relatives. Lev, you can hear Kalev is the Hebrew, but Lev is the part that means heart. And it was chosen in memory of your father's grandmother, Lillian. And Benish is a nickname for Benedict, which means blessing. And Benish is in memory of Bernard, your mother's grandfather. So may a little of Lillian and Bernard live on through you. And as we bring you Caleb Bennett Bo into the covenant of Abraham and Sarah, may you grow to live a life of Torah and good deeds, to one day raise a Jewish family of your own, and to bring blessing to your family and to the Jewish people and to all humanity. And I offer you this blessing. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's radiance shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence be with you always and give you peace. And let us all say, Amen. Siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov, yehei lanu, yehei lanu, yehei lanu, ulechol Yisrael, yehei lanu, yehei lanu. Ulechol Yisrael, siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov, yehei lanu. That's what he has to say about that. And so we join in our Nisim B'chol Yom, not taking for granted any little thing. On page 293 in the brackets. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech bivina lahavchin ben yom uvein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokev kifufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten laya'ef koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir sheina me'enai utnuma me'afapai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani b'tselem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani bat chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. We continue on page 297 in the middle of the page. If the person who has the microphone could read that part next.
Adonai our God, make the words of your Torah sweet to us and to the house of Israel, your people, and that we and our children may be lovers of your name and students of your Torah. We praise you, O God, teacher of the Torah to our people Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed Torah li'amo Yisrael. On page 298, let's read together. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. We continue now on page 303. Page 303. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha od yahalelucha selah. Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo. Ashrei ha'am shadonai oha. Tila leDavid aromimcha lo ha'melech. Ve'avarcha shimcha leolam va'ed. B'chol yom avarchecha. Ve'alela shimcha leolam va'ed. Gadol Adonai umhulal me'od, ve'ligdulato ein cheker. Dor ledor yishabach ma'asecha, ugvuratecha yagidu. Hadar kavod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha. Ve'ezuz norotecha yomeru, ugdulatcha asaprena. Zecher avtucha yabiu, v'tzidchadcha yiranenu. Chanun rachum Adonai, erech apayim ugdol chased. Tov Adonai lakol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yivarchucha. Kevod malchutcha yomeru, ugvuratcha yidaberu. Lehodia lifnei ha'adam givurotav, ukvod hadar malchuto. Malchutcha malchut kol alamim, umem shaltecha b'chol dor v'ador. Somech Adonai l'chol hanoflim, v'zokef l'chol hakfufim. Einei chol elecha yisaberu, ve'ata noten lahem et ochlam be'ito. Poteach et yadecha, umaspiach l'chol chai ratzon. Tzadik Adonai b'chol derachav, v'chasid b'chol ma'asav. Karov Adonai l'chol korav, l'chol asher yikra'u ve'emet. Ritzon yire'av ya'aseh, ve'et shavatam yishma v'yoshiem. Shomer Adonai et kol ohavav, ve'et kol harishayim yashmi. Tilat Adonai yidaber pi, vivarech kol basar shem kodsho leolam va'ed. Va'anachnu nivarech ya, me'ata v'ad olam. Hallelujah. On page 312 we continue. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala, uv'izman kariv, v'imeru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam lo me'almaya, yitbarach, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha b'richu, leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma, v'imeru amen. As we're able, we rise in body and spirit on page 313, for Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvorei choshech oseh shalom uvorei et hakol hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha barachamim uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, mala ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al ma'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha sela. Or chadash al Tzion tahir v'nizkeh, chulanu mehera leoro, Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. We continue on page 317. Page 317, if the person who has the microphone next could lead us. Please.
O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one, unifier of humanity.
We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel, and joyfully remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we would turn to you and find purpose.
May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds, and their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth.
Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael bi'ahava. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. May be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha Hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shiftecha b'veitecha uv'lektecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot Bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisha'arecha leman tiskeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. We continue on page 321 as we join together. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Yam bye bye bim bim bam, yabba bye bye bim bam, yam bye bye bim bim bam, yabba bye bye bim bam, ay 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 ay, yabba bye bye bim bam, ay 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 ay, yabba bye bye bim bam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilo, oh seifele. Nora tehilo, oh seifele. Shir chadasha shibuhu geulim. Shir chadasha shibuhu geulim. Lishimcha, oh lishimcha al sfat hayam. Lishimcha, oh lishimcha al sfat hayam. Yachad kulam, kulam, hodu, 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 v'himchu ve'amru, Adonai yimlo le'olam ba'ed, Adonai yimlo le'olam ba'ed. Yam bye bye bim bim bam, yam bye bye bim bam, yam bye bye bim bim bam, yam bye bye bim bam. Ay 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 ay, yam bye bye bim bam. Ay 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 ay, yam bye bye bim bam. As we are able, we rise for tefillah. Page 323. Adonai sifatai tivtach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol Atah, Rab lehoshia, Morid hatal. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofeh cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umidom elach, melech meimi, umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, ונאמנה לחיות הכל. Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol. On page 326. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, kishem shemakdishim oto bishmei marom. Kakatuv al yad neviecha v'kara ze'el ze v'amar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzivaot Melocho ha'aretz kivodo Adir Adirenu Adonai Adoneinu Madir Shimcha Bechol Haaretz Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo Echad Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu Hu Yashmienu Berachamav Le'nei Kol Chai Ani Adonai Elohechem Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohai Zion Ledor Vador Hallelujah 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 Hallelujah. We continue at the bottom of page 329, page 329. If the person who has the microphone next would lead us, please.
The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to holiness in time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world.
Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. As we continue on page 332, at the bottom of the page, would you like to lead this passage?
For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond their galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations.
Modim anachnu lach.
For this fragile planet Earth, its times and dies, its sunsets and seasons.
Modim anachnu lach.
for the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements.
Modim anachnu lach.
For human community, our common purpose and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression.
Modim anachnu lach.
For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared.
Modim anachnu lach.
For all who has labored and suffered from a fair word, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom.
Modim anachnu lach.
For human liberties and sacred sites, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose.
Modim anachnu lach.
We pray that we might live not by our fears but our hopes, not by our words but our deeds.
Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulechana elehodot. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Chen v'chesed, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Chen v'chesed, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. V'rachamim. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. We continue our prayer now silently, whether we are led by the words on the pages of our Siddur through page 337, or other prayers throughout the prayer book, or those meditations and thoughts in our hearts. Iyul ratzon imre fi. Iyul ratzon imre fi. Ve'yoni bi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri ve'goali. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imehu. Amen. We turn now in our service to Seder Kriyat Torah for the reading of the Torah, and so we turn to page 364, page 364 in the prayer books. As we are able, we rise, and Jocelyn, you're going to come help me open the ark at this time. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, Bikdushato, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadol Adonai iti, Uneromema Shemo Yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagetula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'hanetzach, v'hahod. Ki chol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, ki chol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha, v'amit naseh lechol erosh. And you can stay with your family now. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omeid. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omeid. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. So our Torah portion, I'll keep this microphone on. Our Torah portion is Shalach Lecha, and as I was mentioning earlier, Caleb is really quite a hero in this Torah portion. And the part I'm going to read is from the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verse 25 and following. And if you'd like to follow along, you can do so in the Clout commentary on page 1109, 1109. It's the larger blue book. Some of them are in the seats in front of you if you'd like to follow along. Whether it's in the Hebrew or the English, I'm going to begin at verse 25 and following. And you'll see in the last verse I read, listen for that word kalev. And I'll be translating it a little later on in the service. So it's our custom to invite someone to the bima for the aliyah. If you've had something good or an occasion to celebrate, if you feel comfortable chanting the blessings before and after. Is there somebody who would like to do that? Okay, come on up, Chase. Hebrew name. Na la'amod Malka bet Nadav levarech ala Torah.
Baruch et Adonai. Sorry. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Vayashuvu mitor haaretz miketz 40 yom. Vayelchu vayavo el Moshe ve'el Aharon ve'el kol adat b'nei Yisrael el midbar paran kadesha. Vayashuvu otam davar ve'et kol ha'edah vayar'um et pri ha'etz. Vayisperu lo vayomru Banu el haaretz asher shalachtanu v'gam zavat chalav udvash hi v'zeh pirya. Efes ki az ha'am hayoshev ba'aretz v'ha'arim b'tzurot gedolot ma'od v'gam yildei ha'anak ra'inu sham Amalek yoshev ba'aretz ha'negev v'ha'chiti v'ha'abusi v'ha'amori yoshev b'har v'hakanani yoshev al hayam v'al yad hayarden. V'yahas kalev et ha'am el Moshe v'yomer alo na'aleh v'yarashnu ota ki yachol nuchal la.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. We turn our thoughts and prayers now to those who are in need of healing, and so we turn in our prayer book to page 371 in the brackets in the middle of the page. If you're joining us through the blessing of technology and you're thinking of those who are in need of healing, whether it's a healing of body or mind or spirit, I invite you to add those names in the chat at this time. We are thinking of the following people in our extended Adith Emmanuel family who are in need of healing: Rob Zabel, Stuart Ettinger, Philip Lutz, Jerry Dreskin, Logan Sugar, Yochanan Ben Yehudit, Richard Foley, Merrill Green, Janet Katz, Joe Wright, Libby Barsky, Carol Levine, Judy Winegren, Bob Epifano, Malcolm Fletcher, Ellen Bertuglia, Mindy Fisher, Kayla Chana Bat Aden Leib Umasalea, Marlene Gratchner, Harry Greenberg, Nick Baud, Deb Nielsen, Moshe Ben Elizabeth, Theodore, Jennifer Ness, Harriet Eisner, Carla Teisch, Chaim Ben David, Eileen Davison, Craig Davison, Hugh Morton, Art Bond, Roberta Levine, Jordan Steinberg, Jeff Schaefer, Carol Schaefer, Michael Infanti, Gary Garnick, Rick Ulrich, Ileana Cohen. And if you're here in the sanctuary and have names of those loved ones who are in need of healing and would like to recite them aloud, I invite you, as you're able, to rise and say those people's names as my hand passes through the congregation. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. As we're able, we rise now as we lift and dress Torah. Larry. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai be'ad Moshe. Ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la, ya la la la, ya la la ya la la la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai be'ad Moshe. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la. May be seated. As we turn now to words of Haftarah, we turn in our Torah commentaries, that's the larger blue books, to page 1262. And this Haftarah portion comes from the book of Joshua. There's a nice connection between the Torah portion and the Haftarah portion, in that in both cases, spies or scouts are sent out on a mission to bring back word, is it safe or not to enter this territory. And so, where's the microphone? We want to pass the microphone to Hal? Okay. And as we're passing the microphone, we turn to page 372 for the blessings before the Haftarah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher batorah uv'Moshe avdo ובישראל עמו, ובנביאי האמת והצדק.
Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim, saying, "Go, explore the countryside of Jericho." When they got to Jericho, they came to the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. Someone told the king of Jericho that some Israelites had come that night to spy out the country. So he sent the word to Rahab, "The men who have just arrived and are in your house have come to spy out the whole country. Bring them out." But instead, the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. So she answered, "Yes, indeed, the men did come to me, but I didn't know that they were where they were from. They left as it was getting dark, just before the city gates were closed. I don't know where they were going, but if you hurry after them, you can catch them." Actually, she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under some stalks of flax she had arranged for herself. The pursuers went as far as the Jordan, as far as the fords, and soon as they left the town, the gate was shut. Before the spies settled down for the night, Rahab went up to them onto the roof and said to them, "I know about the Eternal has given you this land. Dread of you has fallen upon us, and all the inhabitants of this land were scared to death of you. We have heard now how the Eternal dried up the waters of the Sea of Reeds for you when you were leaving Egypt, and how you dealt with Sihon and Og, the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan, whom you wiped out. Our hearts sank as soon as we heard about it, and because of you, our spirits were low. For the Eternal, your God of God in heaven above and here on earth. Now swear by the Eternal that you will treat my family as well as I have treated you, and give me a sign I can trust that you will save my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all their families. Save us from death." The men said to her, "We give our lives here yours, as long as you do not betray what we have been doing. We shall treat you well and faithfully when the Eternal gives us the land." Rahab lived in a house built into the city wall, so she let the men down from the window by the rope. She said to them, "Head for the hills, so that the pursuers don't run into you. Hide there for 3 days until they come back, then go your way." The men had warned her, "We shall be free of the oath you made us swear, unless, when we invade your country, you tie this cord of red thread outside the window through which you let us down. Bring your father and your mother, your brothers, and all your family together in your house. Then anyone who goes out of your house must accept the consequences, and we shall not be responsible. But if any of them comes to anyone who remains in your house, we shall be responsible. And if you tell anyone what we have been doing, we will be free of the oath you made us swear." Just as you say, she had said, she sent them on their way. When they had gone, she tied a red cord to the window. They went straight to the hills and stayed there for 3 days until the pursuers, who had searched all along the road without success, returned to Jericho. Then the 2 spies came down from the hills, crossed the river, and went back to Joshua. They told him everything that had happened to them. They said to Joshua, "The Eternal has put the whole country in our hands. All the people there are scared to death of us."
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzaddik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'yoseh, hamdaber u'mkayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al haTorah v'al ha'avodah v'al hanvi'im v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnucha lechavod ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarchim otach Yitbarach shimcha befi kol chai tamid leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. So there were 12 people, 1 job, and 2 perspectives. That's what our Torah portion is focusing on today. There were 12 scouts who were sent out to survey the land of Canaan to see if it was a suitable place for the Israelites to go forward and enter. 10 came back with a negative report, and 2 came back with a positive report. And so I'll share with you the verses which I read from Torah this morning, just a small excerpt of the whole scene. So at the end of 40 days, they returned from scouting the land. They went straight to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran, and they made their report. And they made a report to them and the whole community as they had showed them the fruit of the land. And this is what they told him. "We came to the land that you sent us, and it indeed does flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit." By the way, the fruit they're showing is this huge cluster of grapes, so huge that it had to be it was carried on 2 poles. However, the people who inhabit the country, they're powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. Moreover, we saw the Anakites there. Amalekites dwell in the Negev region. Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites inhabit the hill country. And Canaanites dwell by the sea and all along the Jordan. And you can hear them getting all upset and anxious. But then Caleb hushed the people before Moses and said, "Let us by all means go up, and we shall gain possession of it, for we shall surely overcome it." Further on in the story, in the text in the Torah, we learn that Joshua joins Caleb in sharing this perspective of surely we can overcome it. And there's many interesting points to focus on the scene of disparate reports, 1 negative, 1 positive. One point is that the negative reporters also acknowledge what Caleb and Joshua saw as the positive. I read in verse 27 that the negative 10 reporters have said, "We came to the land you sent us. It does indeed flow with milk and honey, and here is its fruit." But, and the translation in the following verse indicates the word but, the word is ephes or ephes ki, and it means like however, but, howbeit, yeah, but, right? We know people who are yeah, but people. So these 10 scouts were the yeah, but. And they say, yeah, but the people who inhabit the country are powerful and the cities are fortified with and very large. And moreover, we saw the Anakites there. The word Anak in Hebrew means giant. The naysayers, they acknowledge the good, and yet they see something else. They see fortified cities, giants who live there, and they state in the next verses, we looked like grasshoppers to ourselves, and so we must have looked like grasshoppers to them. So the Talmud asks this question, why would these people who are trying to send a negative report first give something that's positive? Rabbi Yochanan says that there are 3 statements in the name of Rabbi Meir that are truth, alone, borrowing, emet, levado, and livia. And this first statement, emet, truth, answers this question. And here's what the rabbis say. Any slander that does not begin with a truthful statement ultimately does not stand. That is, it's not accepted by others. So in order for them to give their negative report, they had to first state the truthful positive. Yes, it's a land flowing of milk and honey, and here's the fruit. We acknowledge that. Yeah, but... And so because of that positive or that truth, the emet, they were able to share this negative report afterward. And it would stand as truth because they already stated one truth. Another interesting point to look at the Torah portion is the section where we're about to hear Joshua's words. How does Joshua join Caleb? What's interesting is some people interpret this as there's actually 2 different authors and 2 different stories. In the first story, only Joshua is the hero. In the second story, we hear Joshua and Caleb together. And so what does Joshua say in the second report, or echoing Caleb's positive report? He says, the land that we traversed and scouted is an exceedingly good land. If pleased with us, God will bring us into that land, a land that flows with milk and honey, and give it to us. Only you must not rebel against God. Have no fear then of the people of this country, for they are our prey. Their protection has departed from them, but God is with us. Have no fear of them. So it's interesting. Joshua adds to the story that God's presence is with them. And that's another reason not to fear. There's a lot of fear going on amongst these 10 scouts. And Joshua brings God into the formula and says, God will be with us. Have no fear. So, here are a few questions for those of you who are not familiar what our minhag, our tradition and custom is here on a Saturday morning. I share a little bit of the Torah portion, highlight some things, interpretations, and then we have an opportunity to discuss what happened in the Torah, maybe bring it into the 21st century. So here are some questions which I invite anyone present to feel free to respond to. So today I have a few questions. Why do you think Joshua and Caleb saw things differently than the other 10? Might Joshua's affirmation of God play a role in this perspective? Another question. In this passage, a significant majority of the scouts present a pessimistic report. Do you find that a majority of people are more pessimistic or optimistic or something else, maybe realistic? But the majority here, clear majority, was pessimistic. Is that true for today? Can you give an example in which 2 people or groups of people experienced the same thing but saw polar opposites? And one more question. Caleb says, for surely we can overcome it. Joshua says, have no fear. Can you give an example which, in the face of all the negative, the positive prevailed? So those are some thoughts. Why do you think Caleb and Joshua saw things differently? Do you think more people are pessimistic than optimistic or something else? Can you give an example in which 2 groups of people experienced the same thing but saw polar opposites? Or can you give an example in which the positive reigned over the negative? And we have a brand new mic this week. It's almost a Shechianu moment to share your thoughts, reflections. Okay. And if you would say your name and then your thoughts.
Hello, I'm Max. We actually were in Torah study this morning, and this reading made me think of the books of C.S. Lewis were definitely written heavily Christian inspired, but in the very last scene in the last battle, when Narnia, the imaginary world, is all coming to an end and they have their last judgment, there is this group of dwarfs who are sitting because the entrance to their afterlife is through what looks like a little shabby shack in the world before they go on. And there's this group of dwarfs who have just decided no, because they have no faith, there's nothing afterwards, that's what they believe, they cannot be convinced otherwise. So when everybody else comes through this door, they see this beautiful, wonderful land and plenty of food and everything, and they can move the dwarves, try to move them out of what they think is the side of the space, and the dwarves will go, "Ow, why did you bash me against the wall?" Or they can give them food, and the dwarves will say, "Oh, I found some garbage in the corner." So it made me think of that, of how the people of faith, they see what the Lord has done for them, but there's just others who, no matter how much proof, no matter how much support is given, if they're stuck in their ways, if they don't have faith, then they'll just see what they want and say, no help is coming to me, nobody has done anything.
So an example from our literature today, or not too long ago, of how those with faith can embrace the positive as opposed to just seeing the negative. If you didn't, without that faith, couldn't see the positive. And if you could state your name before your comments, please.
Yes, good morning. My name is Bob Lasavita. And in contemporary speak, it'd be, some people see a glass half full, some people see a glass half empty. Or one man's treasure, one man's trash is another man's treasure. It's all the perception of what you can believe in and what you don't believe in, what is possible, what you think is possible, and what you don't think is possible. So there's where you look at those two different things. You get two groups of people, and one will say, well, that's not possible, or another group will say, we don't know until we try.
Right, so we can use that modern metaphor, glass half full, glass half empty, or if you're a literalist like someone I know that I'm related to, of whom I'm the parents, it's a glass half full of air, right?
Hi, my name is Brett Steenbarger, and this is my first Shabbat with the
Welcome.
congregation, and I want to thank all of you for having me be part of this wonderful occasion. There's a tradition in Judaism called Musar, our Jewish character development, and from that perspective, everyone who appears in the Parsha is me. There's some part of me that wants to go out and pursue the milk and honey, and there's some part of me that's afraid of doing so and that holds back. And somehow I have to wrestle with those and find, as Hosea did when his name transitioned to Yahshua, the addition of the little yud, the first letter in the name of God. When we make ourselves holy, we're able to pursue the good.
Thank you. So interesting how Joshua was the one who had faith in God. Not only did he have faith in God, he had God's name in his name. Maybe that was also something that contributed to his faith. There are other thoughts? Here we go. Your name first.
I'm Hal Lichtman. First, I guess there's a reason why people come up to you and say, I have news, and you say, give me, I have good and bad news. And they always use good first. And of course, there was a movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So for some reason, good always comes first and it follows what you said. But I consider it a perception. we were given the right to make our own decisions based on our perception. And as you said, two people can look at and listen to someone else speak, give an oratory, and come away from it with two different views of what that person said. I think a lot of it has to do with what's inside a person as to whether they are, I guess the easiest term is a positive or negative person. Are you hearing that everything's going wrong, or are you hearing that some things are wrong, but a lot of it is good? We hear this every day in politics. It's the reason why we have two sides in Congress. When you down the middle, one side is one group, the other side is another group, and for some reason they all listen to the same presentation and come away with totally different views. And I think that's what God gave us to make our own decisions on what we perceive, what we hear, what we know. And the spies that came back, they saw the good, as did Joshua and Caleb, but they saw something else that brought out some fear in them. And fear is a deep emotion in all human beings. And that's something that somehow we need to overcome to continue with a positive attitude. Fear is good. You can't have hope without fear. And I think that's what makes us human.
Thank you. So people might be, I'm going to paraphrase, like wired differently. Some are just wired negatively, and some are wired more positively. But back to the Musar idea, if these are character traits that are part of us, if we do some self-reflecting, we can say, aha, I notice in myself I am being more on this side. And like so much of what Maimonides teaches with Midot, and you don't want to be the extreme this way either. It's trying to find that balance and maybe recognizing it. And that takes practice. That's why we call it a spiritual practice. Other thoughts? Hey, say your name first, please.
I always thought this was a test of the Jewish people, of their true belief, deep belief in God. And those that believe come through as strong, even though the majority disagree with them. And maybe God had a plan that he could not overcome impossible odds to take over some of these Hittite and, Canaanite people unless he had very strong men. And the strong ones were Caleb and Joshua. And their strength probably is in belief of some other power that was going to do the impossible and take over this land, because they certainly were not in the majority.
And I was trying to see if I could remember the commentator, but I'm not sure, that this was part of like a reason to get rid of those with a slave mentality, right? That those who were entering the land of Israel needed to be those who were born in the wilderness and who were not living the reality of slavery in Egypt. And so that's why, of course, one of the punishments that comes out of this story is the 40 years of wandering, right? So they're not going to enter the land until those people will die off. And I saw another comment. Did everybody who wanted to share a thought first? Okay, let's.
Larry Marcus. There's one thing, some of them, not enough of them, chose to remember what happened as they're exiting Egypt, that miracle of the sea, the miracles that God presents, and they choose to forget that and concentrate on, and furthermore, the manna, God was there for them. They just have to remember that and follow their hearts forward,
Right. So,
not let memory fade.
So maybe the people who saw the negative could not remember that they just, like all the miracles and the good ways, and I guess that's connected again with the faith piece, right? Okay.
And to talk about personalizing the parshat to my own experience, I'm a social worker and I work in the children's system of care, and these are children with severe trauma, psychiatric symptoms, strong behaviors, and the challenge of helping them can seem like facing the Amalekites. There's so much stacked against them, and yet, especially as a clinician and a social worker, my job is to be the relentless optimist, to see every single strength, to see every moment that they make a better choice. And it can be really hard to do that without having something to fall back on, whether it be faith in God, faith in the therapeutic process, faith in the capability of humans to change. But that's kind of what this made me think of, is that's part of my job every day, is to try and be the person who remains optimistic in the face of great challenges.
Thank you for sharing that. One more? Just one. Well, one question.
Yeah, it's more of a question. If this was a test, it almost seemed like the Eternal knew they were going to fail. What would have been like if they didn't? Would he have actually let them enter the land of Canaan?
So,
It's just a...
So if this were a test and those 10 spies answered positively along with Joshua, they all did, what would have been differently? Or the ultimate, because the majority got punished, so ultimately the minority did rule. Oh, you're saying if it was the opposite, if it was the more positive and the minority was negative and the minority ruled. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying it's not always the majority that will be successful in a decision-making process. Sometimes the minority, or what we used to call the vocal minority, can win an argument. What would it have been like? Would God have still allowed the Jews to enter the land if the vocal minority, Joshua, Caleb, etc., were successful in their position of we should go forward into the land?
Okay, so I'm going to hold that question, and we can discuss that at the Oneg Kiddush afterward. I tend to be an optimist, even as I try to be a realist. I also have faith in God, though I believe that it's human beings who have a role, and it's not all beshert. And in times when we're presented with that which might instill fear, may God give us the faith and courage to see what also might be good, and inspire us to take the action we need to ultimately guide us to a perspective and a reality of good. Shabbat Shalom. We turn now in our prayer book to page 374. As we're able, we rise as we return the Torah to the Ark. Etz Chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar derachea darchei noam v'chol netivoteha Shalom, Hashivenu Adonai, Elecha b'nashuva, Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. We remain standing as we turn to page 586 in the brackets, 586 at the bottom for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabach l'adon hakol, l'ket gedula li'oter b'reshit, shelo atzon l'galei ha'rasav, v'lo asamanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam cheltenu kahem, v'gohar aleinu kekohamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim, u'modim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai l'melech al koretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad.
Our thoughts turn now to those who are no longer with us, and so we turn in our prayer books to pages 598 and 599 as we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died during this period of Shiva and Shloshim. We remember Joan Byram, dear friend of Marlene Kaplan, Marcia Ellis Levitt, cousin of Judy Marcus and Larry, Dorothy Brophy, grandmother of Jim Brophy and Sharon, great-grandmother of Xavier and Elle, Louis Alahut, cousin of Rosalie Middleman, Gabriel Schriftgeiser, father of Florencia Norton and Christopher, grandfather of Noah and Ari. We also think of those who died at the season in years past, whose yahrzeits are observed on the Shabbat. Karen Dechter, Gregory Fink, Abraham Goldberg, Ethel Goldis, Reuben Goldman, Celia Kornbluth, Nathan Kushner, Sidney Lance, Gerald Lieberman, Jack and Paz Lutz, Peter Osler, Jacob Plavinsky, Sylvia Schechtman, Aaron Schleiferman, Milton Simbro, Rose Huberman, Rabbi Jeffrey Weisblatt, Max Weiss, Marissa Winogren. And if there are others whose names we should add at the time, if you are joining us through the blessing of technology, I invite you to add in the chat, or if you're here in the sanctuary, you can mention those names aloud as my hand passes through the congregation. And those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own, Zichronam Levracha, may their memories be for blessing, as we continue with words of mourners Kaddish on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayei uvyomei ufchayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mevarach Leolam Omei Omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudasha b'riachu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'romav Huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. You may be seated. And we are thanking in advance the collective of those who have brought bagels and whatever else you brought to our Kiddush.